I'm about to put you on some blank game. If you're starting a clothing brand in 2024, here's some must-have clothing that you need for your next drop. This one, we're going to be chatting about GSM, the fit, and also let's play with gender styles. Most of you lot have just been looking in the men's section, in the men blank section. You need to start switching it up so you can start getting some different cuts. I'm not talking about crop tops essentially, but I'm talking about fittings with some different fits. I'll give you some examples. This is a classic tee, considered a heavyweight tee, coming at 220 GSM. It's made out of 100% cotton. This is the most standard fit you're gonna get. It doesn't hang off the shoulder too much. It keeps its shape, but it's a more mid-weight top. The normal classics sit a little long for my preference, but for people who don't want it sitting on the waist and want a little bit extra length, this is something that you definitely should try out. This one here is the Classic Minus. This is also another mid-weight tee coming at 220 GSM. Almost identical to the other classic, but this one sits 5 centimeters shorter from the waist. So this is more of an on the waist fitting. In my preference, I prefer how this one fits, but it's completely up to preference. If you want a brand that has a little bit more length, or you're targeting a customer that might not want it sitting on the hip, then that's completely fine, but this is a more sitting on the hip type of look for that one. The Staple Tee is another midweight tee coming in 180 GSM, so slightly lighter. For this one, you'll find that it won't keep its shape, it'll form to the body a lot more. This one is same length as the classic, slightly below the hip. In my preference, runs a little bit too long for me, but for some of you that don't want a clothing that just sits on the hip, this might work perfectly for you and your audience and brand. Next, we have the Staple Minus, almost identical to the Staple, also sitting at 180 GSM. The Staple Minus is 5 centimeters shorter from the waist than the Staple. This one will sit a lot more on the waist. Also preference for me, I've worn this top before. It's a lot more of a lighter weight, so you are going to get a bit more of a lightweight tee, but it's not see-through, it's not a sheer top, but it is a pretty good tee. If you're maybe in a warmer climate, or maybe coming to the warmer months, this might be something you want to give a go, because it's got a lot less weight than the classic and the heavy, so this might be a good choice for you. Next one we have is the Heavy Tee. The Heavy Tee is a more boxy, oversized heavy tee. This one's personally one of my favorites. It does come in sitting at around 280 GSM, so it is quite heavy for a t-shirt, maybe not for the warmer months. Recently, due to shrinkage, they do send them, they have become a little bit longer in length, but then as they shrink, they will sit a little bit better. In my opinion, a little bit too long, but it's completely a preference thing. If you don't want sitting on the hip, then this is probably a perfect tee for you. Here we have the women's Relax Zip Hoodie. This is personally one of my favorites due to, if you size up, I'm usually wearing a large. In this one, I'm wearing an extra large. If you size up, it's still quite oversized on the top while not becoming too short on the bottom. This is also personally one of my favorite ones. It does sit in at 320 GSM, so it's the exact same as the Relax hoodie, not quite the heavy, but it's a mid-weight hood. It does sit really nice. I prefer this one over the men's zip, just because in a large, which I wear for the men's, that one does run pretty long. Almost same fit over the top, but this one will be a little bit shorter on the hip. Here we have the women's Relax Crew. This one also coming in at a 320 GSM. This is also a relaxed kind of fit, so we'll be seeing over the shoulder, more of an oversized fitting hoodie or crew neck. This one does come at 320 GSM, so we'll keep it shaped somewhat, but this might be good for the warmer months. It is a women's, the one I'm wearing in this shot. I prefer them just because they do sit a little bit more on the waist compared to the men's, which do drag a little bit. Sizing up for this one is a recommended, so if you're trying to sell this as a large, I might label them as an extra large, just to give some free game out there. People won't know the difference. If you sell someone's a women's but you brand it as a men's, there's so many brands out there that aren't taking it seriously purely just because it's branded in women's, so they won't even think about it. Here we're looking at the women's Organic Rib Tank. This one comes at 330 GSM, so it's quite heavy for a singlet. This is personally one of my favorites, especially they did make one for the men's, but I think they completely got the dimensions wrong. But the women's one does sit really, really well. Here we have the men's Relax Zip coming at 320 GSM, almost identical to the women's one. This is a great hoodie, but I just find them running a little too long. They just run a little too long in my opinion. I tend to go for a women's one in a size up, just because it gives you the same overall like bagginess feel while giving a little bit of cropness from the bottom. So if you like it sitting on the waist, women's, if you like it slightly a bit longer, 5 centimeters probably, then the men's one's actually a really good zip up. Highly recommend. What more than that?